All right, so good evening, everyone. My name is Chong, and today I will be teaching how to build a Laravel website in 30 minutes. But actually, it's more towards how to use Laravel to build a website. We won't be building a very beautiful website, but it's just a quick demonstration of on how to build a website in general. Without further delaying the time, let's start with our agenda. So basically, the first one is I will be introducing Laravel framework, and then explain a bit of the things that we are utilizing in Laravel. Then after that, we'll be setting up a Laravel project, and after that, I will be starting to build websites. All right. So okay, let's get on with it. So first one is we are going to talk about what is Laravel. So what is Laravel? So Laravel is one of the common, well-known PHP framework you can find out there. So there are other frameworks such as like Cake PHP, Code Igniter, Yi framework. But Laravel is one of the considered one of the common ones. So the one nice feature about Laravel is its batteries included. What I mean by batteries included is it is not a framework just to build websites. Like it just able to like render web page or something like that. But it is also capable of like handling with databases. You can even use Eloquent ORM, which is basically the model that you can interact. You can basically use the Eloquent to query the database and something like that. Fatin, I am not muted though. Are you sure you are not silent by yourself? All right, so can anyone hear me before that?
Can.
Can. All right, so might want to check your speaker settings or something like that. All right, okay, so where am I? All right, so next we have a view. So view is basically a way to represent, like it's basically representing data in a way, but you can also render web pages on it as well. Then there's also middleware. Middleware is basically a feature where you can actually do some processing before the controller is being called. So don't worry about some of the terms that you don't quite understand. I will explain some of it later in this slide. And if you think that you are still unclear, you can always just message in the general classroom channel, or you can just unmute and ask question directly. I will be answering your question as best as I can. All right. So okay. So next is okay. So before that, I also would like to introduce a common architecture design, which is called a model view controller. So uh, give me a moment. Give me a moment, real quick. Right. So I just want to have a double confirmation. Everyone can hear me, right? Okay. Yes, you can. All right. So okay, no problem. So let me just give me one moment. All right. Okay. I hope I fix audio issues. So let me continue. Give me a moment. Uh, All right. Okay. Nice. I think that should fix it. All right. So, okay. So, model view controller is, or commonly known as MVC, is a common architecture design for web applications in general. So, okay. So we as a user, right? So this is our user, and as a user, we can request a web page, right? So for example, we want to request, let's say, google.com. So actually, when the request reach to the Google server, we will actually reach the controller first. So the controller will decide which it will decide on which data it needs to request from the model, and then the model will return the data that is requested by the controller, and then after that the controller uh, will get the data collected from the model, send it to the view, where the view will be rendered with the data and will be provided to the user as a response. So in in the simplest way, this is a common application flow for websites built using MVC framework. All right. So next, give me a moment. Okay. So there are four basic things to set up MVC. So first one is you need routing. So routing, and then next one is the controller, model, and the view. Okay. Next. So routing is basically that it decides which controller to use for a route. So for example, if let's say a user requests to log in, for example, so there will be a route to do login basically. So the router itself, right, will determine that, okay, this is actually a login, so I would like to use the user controller, where where the controller itself will have a function that handles user authentication. And it is actually technically possible to write controller code in routes for a very simple web page, but although we would try not to do that, because what will happen is that your routing code will be a bit too complicated, and it will become a bit of a hassle to deal with your code. All right. So next we have controller. So controller is basically like a collection of functions that can handle a specific function, or in this case a logic. So from the previous example, a controller is usually how to say, like, we have a user controller. So this user controller will handle everything related to the user. For example, user login, user logout, modifying user profile, deleting user, those kind of logic. And on top of that, a controller can also have middleware for request processing. So for example, if let's say a user wants to access a protected content, like for example, you're building uh, like a website for managing your own like notes or something like that. So if let's say the node itself is is set to a private mode. For example, private mode as in use it for yourself. So if the user itself is as trying to access the node, the middleware will say, okay, you are the user, so I will permit you to access the node. But if let's say someone else wants to access that node, it will be blocked, because the middleware will do the checking whether the user is how to say, the user is authorized uh, to view that node. So middleware can do that. Although it's not very common if you have a very basic website. All right. So yeah, for example, middleware can be used to check if the user is authorized to access a route. All right. Next, we have model. So model basically handles data manipulation. So most of the time, you will use model classes to interact with the database. For example, you want to select a user information, or you want to update user information, or you want to delete user information. We have a term called CRUD, CRUD. So that is basically part of the create, retrieve, update, and delete operations. So usually you will use model to interact with data that way. And then and the data that has been requested will be passed to the view to be displayed. Generally, model will return to the controller, and then the controller will return to the view for to be displayed to the user. All right. So in Laravel, we use Eloquent itself for model handling, and therefore, I would like to actually show how Eloquent does model handling, but I don't think that I have a lot of time to attempt on building a website in that time, so I might not be including an example of a model handling in this simple website. Okay, next we have view. So view basically handles presentation of your data. So if let's say you are selecting a list of nodes that you have created, right? So what the controller will get from the model is a list of your nodes. So view basically takes in these nodes and uh, render it into a web page. Usually, what it will do is that it will fetch, like for example, a template that is used to view your nodes, right? And then it will put in the data fetched from the model into that template and renders a website. It renders a web page for you. So in this case, Laravel uses Blade template engine for view rendering. Okay, so these are the few core features that you would like to use in the MVC framework, especially in Laravel, as well as most other MVC capable frameworks. Yeah. So next, we will talk about like how do you start building websites in Laravel. So of course, since Laravel itself is a PHP project, right? It uses PHP basically. So you would need to install PHP. And in order for you to use Laravel, you also need to basically download Laravel framework to use Laravel in your web page. So in this case, we will use Composer to fetch Laravel as well as the dependencies, and then we can use that to set up our website basically, and we to set up our simple web project. And then we will need to have suitable IDE with PHP support. You can use the easiest way to use it is you can use Visual Studio Code and with a PHP extension. And then, of course, if you want to view the web page, you will need a web browser. And if you are developing Laravel application with a database, then of course you need to have a database installed. However, if you have Windows installed, you can just access you can go to Laragon website, which is laragon.org, and you can download the software which will set up a basic PHP environment, basically. So Laragon itself includes PHP and I believe also Composer, if not mistaken. And it will also have a database and includes a web server for you as well. All right, so the slides ends here because after this I will just do like a live coding session to show you how generally someone will start setting up a Laravel PHP project. All right, so we can go to this Visual Studio Code. So if you want to set up a project in Laravel, so one of the first step you would like to do, let me bring a command prompt. Right. So first thing you would like to do is you would like to install something called Laravel installer. So Laravel installer is basically an application that helps you to set up Laravel projects in the beginning. So what you can do is after you have installed Laragon, right? So you will end up with this window. So after you get this window and you have Apache and MySQL started, you can click on Terminal, and it should bring you to this application, to this window. And then after that, you would like to run Composer global require a Laravel slash installer. All right. Before that, can everyone see this screen, or you would want me to increase the size of the terminal? I hope I can increase the size. Uh, okay, give me a moment. All right. So can everyone see the terminal? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Nice. Okay. So when you run this command composer global require laravel slash installer, what it will do is it's basically will install the required data to have our installer. So after this command has finished running, it is finished in here because I have installed Laravel installer. I have installed the installer previously. So after this has been set up, you would like to run Laravel new, and you can give a name of the application. I will call this Laravel simple website, and then I will press enter. So what this will do is that it will start collecting the dependency to set up Laravel for your web page, for your web application called Laravel Simple Website. And this will take some time. It will take about 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how fast your computer is. It's a bit slower on Windows, but it's quite fast on Linux and Mac operating system. So we will wait for a bit. It will start installing the dependencies. Yeah, it may take some time. My laptop is not very fast. All right. While it is still installing, do you guys have any questions that you would like to ask on things that you are still not quite clear? All right. So I would guess that there's no question. So I will. So we wait for this. Wait for this project to be created. Then I will start building. I will start giving a quick example of how you can run a website, basically. All right. So when you get application ready, build something amazing, that means that our Laravel project has fully started. So if you go back to your Laragon application, which is this window, you will see that there's a root button here. So if you click on the root button, you will see that now you have your the project that I created, which is called Laravel Simple Website, created in the location where the Laragon is installed. In my case, it's C drive Laragon www, and then we have Laravel Simple Website. So what you want to do after that, is that you would like to open this folder located in C drive, Laragon, www, and then Laravel Simple Website. All right, so now we have opened this folder, and if you like to know where's the location of where Laravel stores its routes, its controller, and view. So first we will talk about routes. So in Laravel, routes are stored in routes folder itself. So there's a few There's a few other files here, but we will ignore the API channels and console for the time being, and we will focus on web.php. All right, so as you can see here, right now, for a basic Laravel application, right, we will have, sorry, give me a moment. We will have Laravel itself basically provided us with a simple route so that we can actually try to see whether it works or not. Give me a moment. Let me restart my Laravel real quick. Okay. All right. So basically, right now, when your application is up and running, what you can do is you can open a web browser. Give me a moment. Let me open a web browser. All right. So here's my web browser. I will pull it small so you can see it. So now I can just go to Laravel simple website test. And then when you visit the website, you will get this page. So this page is basically the view of this welcome view. So the view is stored inside resources, views, and then you have this welcome.blade.php. So when we have a route, so this route is basically the root. We will call it the root route. So slash means it's the root itself. So when you call this slash route, which is basically like this, right? It will return this view, this welcome view, which is basically the web page itself. So if you look at this welcome.blade.php, what you're seeing is basically the source code for this Laravel project. So as you can see, if you compare the source code and the website, you can see that there's a text says Laracast offers thousands of video tutorials on Laravel, PHP, JavaScript, blah 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 blah, and then you have this on here. All right. Just one thing real quick. Can you see this text, or do you want me to make the size larger? I think I probably make it larger. So let me bring it up to 32. Oh man, that's a bit too big. Yeah, so this should be better, right? This text, that means less thing visible for the code, but better readability for you guys. All right, thanks, Ame. Thanks for the confirmation. All right, so basically now I have shown you the routes, which the one you will concern the most is on the web PHP. So web PHP contains all the routes that you need to for basically for websites. Because one thing that Laravel does is that it actually separates API calls with web. So that's why it has two separate route configuration here. Okay, before I continue with the controller, do you guys have any other questions? Hopefully it's not too complicated because I am not quite sure how to deliver this in the simplest terms, but I hope this one would at least gives you like a quick introduction of how it feels like, how it looks like building Laravel web applications out there. Okay, if there's no other questions, then I will continue to show you where the controller is stored. So Laravel controller is stored in app HTTP controllers, and then you have controller.php. So controller.php is really like a sample controller that it provides by default, because Laravel really goes for as basic as possible. So what they did is they just dump it inside the web, which is like what I mentioned previously, that you can actually do controller code from route, but generally you would want to not do this because it's not the best practice. And So yeah, we have controllers here, and we have controllers in app HTTP controllers, and then we have the views in resources, views welcome blade PHP, and then we have routes in routes and web PHP. All right. So let's say we go for a quick home, like we build a quick home page. So what I would like to do is I would like to create a new controller. So I will call this controller uh home controller basically. All right. So let me bring this up. Let me bring this terminal up. Let me make it larger if I can. No, this is not what I want, but let me try again. Preferences, settings, terminal. Can I make it bigger? Hopefully. No. Let me try. Font size. Debug console. Nope, that doesn't work. Markdown, notebook, terminal. Alright, this is the one. Alright, no, that's too big. So 24. Alright, so yeah, I hope you guys can still see this, but I hope it's fine. Alright, so one thing to note is that Laravel itself comes with a tool called Artisan. So if you run PHP Artisan list, right? So so Artisan itself is like a convenience tool that you can use to facilitate building a website, your application basically. So you can see that it allows you uh, to basically, like, you want to bring up your website or you want to bring down the website. So up basically bring the application out of maintenance mode, down is to bring it to maintenance or demo mode, and it also allows you to run other things, like for example you would like to make new things, like for example make controller, or you want to make a new middleware, a new model, a new request, for example. So it is a convenience tool for you to, for example, like even to do database migration, to to build a need to list your routes, for example. So if I run PHP artisan route list, I hope that's the right one, route list. Yeah. So what this will provide you is that, so we have a get or hit method, which points to the root URI, which is part of the web middleware, and then the actually is a closure because in PHP, give me a moment. In PHP, this is considered a closure. So this one is what we call a PHP closure in general. All right. So yeah, let's go back to our aim. So our aim is, so my current aim is I want to create a new controller. So I will call PHP artisan make controller, and then this controller I will call it home controller. All right. So after I run this command, it will say controller is created successfully, and now you have a home controller here. So this controller now is empty, but what I can do is now I will start to add a new function. So public. Okay, before I started typing the code, so first I would like to make a home page of I'll say a function that will display my home page. So what I will do is I will just define it as a public function home page, right? And then this one I would like to return a new view. So I will call it, I will define this as return view. For the time being, I will call it home page. All right. So now, so now we have defined this. We have defined this homepage controller code, and now I will need to call. What's the right term? Okay, never mind. So my memory failed me. So never mind. All right. So now I will go to views, this views folder, and I will now create a new file called homepage.blade.php. Right. So one thing to note is that in Laravel view function, right, the name of this the name of this the no, what's it? The name of the view itself, you don't need to define .blade.php. So Laravel automatically checks for, if you define homepage, it will look for homepage file name itself. So you just make sure you have defined it. And if you're wondering like what happen if let's say that you have a folder in here, let's say blog post, and then blog post here, then I will have a new file called list.blade.php, right? So in this case, if let's say you really want to you want to reach to this list.blade.php, what you can define is, let's say I define it as a route that I call it blog as the route, and then I will do the same thing. I will follow this code, this closure code. So what I will do, I will declare a closure function, and then I will just return. And for this view parameter, what I will do is I will put the folder name first, blog post, and then the name of the file. So I will call it blogpost.list. All right. So so to prove that this works, so what I will do is I will put here blog post.list as the content inside this list.blade.php. And then now if I bring up my web browser here, all right. So if I reach to Laravel-simple-website.test and I add blog at the end, what you will see is it will just dump me a great error. Oh, never mind. I forgot semicolon. Oops. Okay. Let me bring back here. And if I re-access this website, now you can see that the content of this list.blade.php is now on this page. So this is the way that you would like to access the template file located in this views folder. All right. Before that, is there any questions that you guys have, or anything that you are still not quite clear?
Can I create like the controller on the left side panel instead of in the terminal?
Oh, you mean you want to create it manually? Yes, you can, but I would recommend you not to do that, because the reason why is that it's because controller actually, how to say, a lot of Laravel, or a lot of these make functions, right? They actually have a lot of things that it's not easy to do manually, right? So what I meant is something like this. If let's say if you try to run PHP artisan make controller and you call help, you'll notice that it has a lot of these parameters. So these parameters, right, will basically help you to build your controller. Okay, so for example, if let's say I want to build a controller that will define all the necessary functions for you, right? What I can do is I will just call it PHP artisan make controller, and I will say that this is a resource controller class. Don't worry about it. I will explain it later. And then I call it controller with resource controller. So if you look at this controller, what you notice is that it has more things than what I previously created. So what I previously created, it has basically something like this, right? So basically, it creates a simple controller. You determine what code you want to write. But if you use artisan command to generate your controller, you can actually build more content on it. So rather than you type the code manually, you can instruct artisan itself to generate basically a full set of controller functions that you would like to use. So for example, index will be your listing, create will be a form to show that you want to create a new resource, and then store is the post request that stores your request. Show is to show a single resource. Edit is to show the edit page, and this one is basically a post function for updating the request, and this one is to delete the request. So if you, I mean, I'm not gonna say that you can't do this manually, but I would say it would be a very tedious process if you need to do it constantly. So I hope that answers your question, Nabil Ifwa.
Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Alright,
So basically, if you do it in the terminal, it generates the template as well, right?
correct. It generates
Something like a template.
Okay, the template, no, the template you have to do it manually, unfortunately. But for the make controller, if you use the make command, it will generate all the things that you need if you define the options as needed.
Okay.
Alright, hope that answers your question.
Okay.
Alright. Okay, so next I will continue with the home controller, and now we have a home page. Alright, so for this home page, I will quickly build a simple HTML. A HTML5, right? So we have all these nifty features. So what I will do is this one will be our base page. So home page is basically, I will call this a home page. And then over here, I will just put here H1. Welcome to my home page. And close that, right? So if I update, and then one thing is that our root is now still being stolen by the Laravel default generator template. What I will do now is I would like to change from this function to the function of my controller, right? So in order to get that, what I will do is I can just refer to the function, which is it will ask for an array or string or callable or null. So there's a few ways to do that, but I will just show it one by one. So if I want to call this home controller to list this home page, what I will do is I will just say return. No, not this one. Sorry. So I will call our home controller class of the name of the function that will show our home page. So I will call home page. So here is home page. All right. So this one is the way that we would like to say, okay, for this root route, I would like to call home controller of the function home page. So what it will do, it will just look at my homepage.blade.php and then render the web page out. So now if I go to this Laravel simple website and I go to root, now it will, rather than it shows previously is the Laravel homepage, now it shows my actual homepage. So technically, if you want to say the outcome is you have built from nothing to a website in 30 minutes, so this is technically that, but then it's too simple. I would like to let you know how to build more things using Laravel framework, because Laravel framework has a lot of features that makes building web page like magic, kind of, but I won't really call it magic. It just, if you do need to have some, you need to take some time in order to understand how to build a web page, because Laravel is very, very, very massive, because it just has too many features. It even took me 3 months to really get used to it because of the sheer features it has. All right, so let's say I would like to do my, let's say this simple website is a place where I would like to show a list of blog posts I have, right? So what I would like to do is I will write a code. I will write a web page that lists down my entire blog post. I will call it a fictitious blog post because we don't have a database yet. So I will emulate a database out, right? So first we will reuse this blog post list .blade.php, don't worry. So what I will do is I will go to web PHP. We would not use this. We will use it differently. So I will basically will call block as a block controller class, and then I will call this a list log. All right. So now what I will need to do is, because we still don't have a block controller here, I will need to bring up my terminal again, and then I run php artisan make controller, and then I will call this a block controller. All right, so now I have a block controller, and now we will need to create this list block function. So here I will have to declare a function, public function, what's the name again? The name is list block. All right, list block, and then here I will just say that I will put here simulate getting data from database. So let's say my block, so here is my list. I call it block list, and then this will return an array of a few titles. So this is like welcome, and then after that I will just say I made a new thing, right? And then maybe a third one I will say that Laravel is very fun to develop on. All right, so okay, so this is our beginning, and then now I would like to call my list.blade.php. All right, so now I will just declare return view blog post, because our list.blade.php is in blog post, so blog post.list, and then that will be our view. But you might say one thing, but Chong, you only call this blog post.list, but what about this list? How do I want to pass this blog list into our template, right? So don't worry about that. That's a way to do that. So if you look at this, there's if you look, so view has two things. So first one, you will need to define the view, and next you will need to provide the data, right? So for data, it accepts an array of data. So I will call this a block list, and then we will say that the block list key has contents of block list. So what will happen is, in when this list block function is called through from the controller, it will just say, okay, I will send this block list to the view, and then the view will basically render this block list out. But of course, we will still need to do some work on here. So now, instead, we will update this code, and I will just do HTML5. Okay, so I'll call this block list. Okay, so of course it's not. I would say this is not the. Of course, there's a lot of features. So I will introduce you one of the first features of Blade is that it is not just a way for you to just render this page out. Of course not. That's too basic. But it has a lot of directives. So to say, you can treat it as like a function, but this directive allows you to basically utilize it to render your data out. So recall that I have these three items in my block list that we are simulating as a database. So what I will do now is in here I would like to use for each, right? So for each block list as block, right? Give me a moment. So now and then of course I will need to end this with n for each. Alright. So now I can just say I would like to render this as an anchor, as an a tag, right? Give me a moment. A tag. And then for now I just put this as a href of something. Give me a moment. At least now I call it as a I just consider it as an empty list. And then if you want to, let's say, so this is a block. So block list is in the form of list. So now we have the each of the content in block, right? So now what I can do is I can just do double curly braces. So in Blade template, double curly braces is a way for you to print the data into the template. So now I will just call blog. All right. So, and then now let's make it nicer. I put a h1, right? And I call this a list of my blog h1, right? So now if I go back to my website, not website, if I go back to my web browser, and then now I call blog controller is not there. My bad. I forgot to include it. Right. So if I call this block again, so now I have these three things. Like previously I defined in the controller. So welcome, I made a new thing. Laravel is very fun to develop on. So now we have these three things. Of course, it is still not very beautiful. So we can make it be more beautiful. Let's make it into a list, shall we? So first I will call it as a I would say it's an unordered list, right? And then I will end my unordered list here, and then I would like to define it each list as an unordered list, so we call it this way. And then if I refresh my page again, now we have an unordered list of my blog, so to say. All right. So now what I can do is, if let's say I really want to have a content for each of these, right? So now I can just say, for example, in this blog post, I will create three more files. So I call this welcome.blade.php. Oops, I am so clumsy today. .blade.php. And then let's create the rest as well. I made a new thing, so this one I will use dashes. So new file, I made a new thing .blade.php. And then the last one I would need to create a new one. Laravel is very fun to develop on. Blade.php. All right. So now we have a list of blog, but that's not enough. We would like to, of course, show that we want to show our blog content to the entire world, of course. So now I will just uh, welcome welcome thing. So HTML5, then I'll put here welcome, and then here is like I just put it as basic as possible, well, just a demo. So welcome to a shiny new blog post on the internet. Right? Okay, so let's call this our welcome blog. Welcome blog. And then I will just do a quick copy paste. Then I will create something like this. So this one I will update it to say I made a new thing. And then I will just change the title is a new website using Laravel. And then on here is Laravel is very fun. Laravel is very fun to develop on. And then just say that I can use Blade templates to render anything I want. It's like magic. All right, so now we have these three blog posts. But of course, now the question is, how would I want to link to these three blog posts that we have, right? So, give me a moment. Let me check if I have any question. No question. All right. Okay. So now I think after this I will close this session because I don't want to drag it too long. I want because it's kind of nearing the 30-minute target. So last feature. Let's say I want to have a route that will utilize the following name. So I made this a new thing. Laravel is very fun to develop on, and welcome, right? So now I can do it this way. I can call route get, and then I will just say block, but I will define it with one extra thing. I will put a curly brace, and then I just say block name, something like that. And then this one, I will just call block controller, and then this one would be a show block. All right, so show block will basically, okay, I know which one to show, and then I will call it out from, I will call the respective name of that file out. Okay, so now what I will do is I will go back to my block controller and add this show block. So now we have list block, and now we need to create public function show block. Okay, so first, because our block has a block name parameter, we will need to include this into our show block function. So block name, and then we can start rendering it out. So I will call it a return view, and then it starts with blog post. So blog post, and now I will need to add this name in. So instead, I will use another function called sprintf. So sprintf is basically it will return a formatted string. So we will use this function to concatenate our block name into here. So sprintf blog post %s, and then the value will be block name. Right, so this one should hopefully we'll be able to show this. So let's try this. Let me call block and then I call this welcome. Right. So as you can see, by telling the route that we have a variable name called block name, we can pass this block name into our show block function in our block controller, and then that will basically call the respective template name, our template out. So if I change it to, I made a new thing, so I've created a new website using Laravel, and if I use Laravel, it's very fun to develop on. And then now you can see I can use break templates to render anything I want. It's like magic. Okay, so hopefully this will give you a quick and dirty way of getting into Laravel web application development. I hope this will motivate you guys to consider using Laravel for your future projects, or maybe to showcase to your showcase this on as your own portfolio later on. So yeah, that's all from me for today. I think I will like to open up for questions. Do you guys have any questions that you would like to ask on the things that I've explained just now? Any questions, really? Things that are not quite clear, or you miss out something, or I didn't explain quite well.
Chong,
Yo,
uh, regarding yang route tadi, web
huh?
PHP tu,
Mm-hmm.
kalau dia include contoh yang get block tu, and then ada function sekali, dia tak boleh macam mana dia uh, dia boleh include function sekali ke tak boleh? Ataupun dia macam memang macam ni saja dia punya form dia?
You mean like this one?
Yes.
Uh, this one is the common way to call it, because actually, like previously, earlier example is you have route get, and then after that you have a route, and then it basically calls a function, right? So function this. So you are asking about this, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Cannot both lah kiranya. Dia only one lah.
You can actually do mix, no problem. Because let's say I call this let's say another block, right? And then I return this, then I return a view hidden block, right? So now I create a new view here called hidden block.blade.php, and I call this hidden log. All right. So if I go to this another block, route here, so another block. Yes, you can definitely do this. So I'm not saying that you can't use this. It's just that it's not how to say, it's not recommended to do so, because or else your web PHP will become very messy. Yeah. I hope that answers your question.
Okay.
All right. All right. So do you guys have any other questions? Anything that you would like to know on what's the on things that you are still not quite sure on? So yeah, if you guys are interested on learning more about PHP, not PHP, sorry, more about Laravel, I will paste in the documentation in general classroom. So this is the documentation for Laravel 8, which is the Laravel version that I am showcasing you just now. So yeah, if you are interested on writing Laravel application, sure, no problem. Because it's a great framework for you to learn on, especially, I mean, quite a lot of places out there do love to use Laravel framework out there. So yeah, if you if you end up having questions about how to use Laravel for development, you can definitely message me uh, inside the chat and just mention me. I will help to answer your questions as much as possible. So yeah, happy coding, I guess. Happy coding on Laravel, and I hope you guys enjoy my quick and dirty lesson on how to build a simple web page on using Laravel framework. So yeah, with that, I would say thank you for your attention and have a good night.
Thank you, Chong.
Okay, no problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello. Chong,
Yeah, hello.
may I ask one question? What is mean colon clause?
You mean this double colon?
Yes, double colon clause. What does it mean?
This one is to say that you are calling the class, you are using the class name itself. So what this one is meaning that this is we want to say that we want to use block controller and then list block. So technically the class means this class. That's all. I hope that answers your question.
Or just container like macam mana nak cakap? Dia transfer ke macam mana?
Oh,
I, I teringat.
okay. Kejap ya, give me a moment.